You're listening to the 54665, all things rural economic development, all things Viroqua, and this morning, all things fabulous, because we have two of my favorite people here. The Bonton Millinery Apartments. Ladies, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Jessica Hooper. I moved here about 12 years ago. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's about the time I moved here.
I think I've lived here the longest I've lived anywhere.
Yeah.
Shocking. Yeah, and I met Randy here.
Yeah. How did you find each other exactly? How did that?
We found each other at the Rooted Spoon at Taco Night. When I first moved here, Taco Night was a big draw for me, missing that Mexican food.
Right, of course.
And Jess was making cocktails, and we had a couple of things that we needed to find out about the town. So who better than to ask but the craft cocktail maker?
The best cocktail maker ever.
Yeah. So we both realized we were from Los Angeles originally, and we grew up in the Valley in Los Angeles, and we kind of had this odd parallel 20-year age difference life, and got to be friends through that.
That's so cool.
And I think it really actually bloomed around the pop-up.
Right? Because the pop-up, so for listeners, the Bontown Millinery Apartments was a pop-up shop, but the pop-up started as Jessica's pop-up shop, I believe, before the meeting of the minds.
Yeah. There were several people who wanted to be a part of, I had this building that somebody was going to share with me, and that didn't work out. And I had this huge space and a lot of people wanting to be a part of it. And that was a hard choice to make. But Randy was, I don't know, so alluring to me. I'm like, that lady.
She's alluring to me too.
Do you want to be
I totally
doing
crashed
something
your
with me?
pop-up.
It was
I just
brilliant.
I had stuff at the Viroqua Public Market, and I was like, that's great. I don't need a retail shop, and I'll just have stuff there. And then it was Twinklefest, and Jessica's shop had just opened, and I was walking down the street. I was like, wait, you have a pop-up? She's like, yeah. I said, I'm going to move into your pop-up, basically.
Yeah.
And we tried it out for a while, and I was in the back room, and Jess was in the front, and we were like, let's put everything together and see what happens.
That was better.
So
You both have such complementary items and sensibilities and taste. It almost seems like it was really meant to be. How does something come together so seamlessly?
I feel like you can't choose it.
Right.
My brain's not that good at that.
if you tried to make it happen, I don't think it would have worked for either of us in a way. I mean, it was just kind of this magical serendipitous thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that about it. Kind of like how I ended up living in Viroqua was also quite random and serendipitous. And every morning I still wake up and go, what an amazing place I ended up in because I fell in love with a house here. So, you know.
It is also one of the genius pieces of this pop-up because there isn't a lot of pressure. It's you can just be and like be yourself and start without a big idea. So like having a partnership with Randy was just sort of like, you're cool. You don't need to prove anything to me. We don't need to make a great plan. We need to just be and try to be good. It was great. It was really fun. It's still really fun.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Well, and you can tell that, you know, there's really, I don't know how to explain this, but there's such a wonderful energy in your space. Not only is it merchandised so beautifully and at times in a way that is just fun and light, you know, I don't know how else to explain it other than that, but you can really feel the partnership and the love. That's very special to be able to have a vibe such as that in a place, I think.
I think it shows that we have a really good time doing what we're doing, and I think people get that, and I think they have a good time when they're in the shop. It's kind of an adventure. You can look around. There's all different things, and there's usually a story with everything, and that brings people's stories out. So we have a joke that where it's kind of like a therapy shop. People come in and we get the stories, and one woman came in and we had some pottery, and it turned out that her mother had made this pottery in Hawaii
in the 70s.
and it found its way back here, and
Wow.
we ended up picking it up. So there's that kind of thing that runs through there. So it's
And
it's
Luke
kind
still
of-
uses it as his olive dishes.
It's so amazing.
kind of
it's
interesting.
totally amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you find all of your items? Tell me a little bit about how that works. I know that many of the things are handmade and very lovely. And then there are some other things that are obviously picked up elsewhere. So how do you do that?
It's an extension of what we already do. It's like, I love handmade. I love appreciating artists' work and that energy. But I also love the quality of things that have been created in the past, because there's a lot of amazing wood and fabric and, with vintage.
Yeah.
So of course you would want to choose both.
Right.
And to find it, there's a lot of artists around here who do great work.
So when you are looking for the vintage items, do you go to specific shows or
No
how
shows.
Do you...
We do a lot of auctions, flea
Yeah.
markets, garage sales, eBay. It's like a giant treasure hunt for us
Yeah,
all the
all the
time.
time.
And that's, I think, one of the pieces that we really love about the shop. We love to be out there hunting and picking and searching for things. And it's like, yay, we found this.
We live in the middle of this great area that has finds on the side of the road still.
Well, there are side of the road finds.
right. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And $15 chairs that turn out to be some fancy mid-century piece that's marked on the bottom that nobody knew. So that's super fun too.
Absolutely. So is there a flea market or a space? I don't want you to give away all of your secrets, but
Our favorite place closed down.
oh, really?
Yeah. In Coon Valley. She was genius.
And that
Completely
was,
genius.
That was
And
one
then
of your
her
favorites.
Farm got flooded,
She
with
flooded
all of
out,
her
yeah.
extra stuff that she was going to sell out of her farm.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Favorite.
Yeah.
She was.
There isn't really any particular one place. I mean, we just keep our eyes out for auctions and flea markets, and we do all the garage sales. Oconomowoc was the one great, they turned the whole town into a flea market once a year. That was pretty fun. We got some
was
good
fun.
stuff there. Was it Oconomowoc?
What was it called?
No, Orinoco.
Orinoco.
Something with an O. Orinoco, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Is
that was
up
great.
north or where is
It's just across the river, about an hour.
that? Wow.
Bonkers.
Yeah, and they
I think Viroqua could do that.
It's a teeny tiny. It's much smaller than Viroqua, and literally the entire town is a flea market. People's front lawns, and
yeah.
there's probably 60 different vendors there.
Oh, I would say probably 600.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A lot. So I love 60 or 600. But yeah, so that's fun. And eBay, constantly trolling eBay and online stuff.
Yeah.
So, which is tough for furniture, obviously, because the shipping gets a little crazy. But
Sure.
yeah, just anywhere.
Yeah. That's super fantastic. So it's sort of a never-ending process. So when we talk to other people about how they do their ordering, like Mr. G, for example, he's always ordering about a year ahead of time.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing similar things, just finding them
Yeah.
or creating them.
Yeah.
Finding them just makes a lot of stuff. We also, we really try to have as much local stuff as we possibly can from people who make around here.
Yeah.
And that needs to be supplemented. I mean, there's very few places to buy new clothes in town, so we try to have new clothes that we source from a couple of different places. That's constantly changing, but it's things that aren't massive outlets, because obviously we don't have the capital to go out and buy the way Mr. G does,
Sure.
things like that. So we're sort of limited in that, but it's great for the people to have a place to get new clothes in town. And So yeah, just keeping our eye out and finding stuff. I don't know that we source a year ahead of time. We've got a pretty good sized basement, so we can stash a lot of stuff that doesn't work seasonally. So that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Tell me a little bit about your merchandising strategy. I think that merchandising and display are such an important part of retail and really help to create the experience for the people coming in. I believe that the way that you merchandise is really effective because you're using a small space and you make things look really nice and there's still plenty of room to move. And the displays are creative and kind of inspiring and cute and fun. So how do you create all of that?
I think it's really, it's like making your home.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we rearrange, we just want to, if we want to live in it, it feels right. You're like, oh, this is fun.
And
I like
Jessica's the wizard at that. She really puts things together in an amazing way. I'll be out of the shop for a couple of days and come in and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a whole new space in here. Everything's moved around and that's super fun. And we kind of do that for each other.
Yep.
And then sometimes we'll just tear everything apart together and we're like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? And then slowly you create a little area. You make a living room, you make a dining room, you make a glassware, and it just evolves, but it's constantly changing, which is fun for us and I think fun for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Plus we sell stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
Oops.
So what's it like having a partner in business?
I've had several partners. It's really hard if it doesn't work. It's really genius if it works.
Yeah.
What's the secret to making it work?
I don't know the secret, honestly. Having a fun person to hang out with.
I think we just clicked. I think that we both have different strengths, but somehow there's a unifying factor that comes out visually.
Yeah.
Like Jess is the maker. I'm more nuts and bolts, but somehow we're both super visual and that just works together. And I think we also give each other the space to like do what our thing is without either of us trying to control a certain aspect of anything. It's like, okay, yeah, we can do it that way. We can do it this way. Let's just make it work. So
that is a big piece. Feeling like you need to control all of the aspects. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But
really
it
fun
is-
to let somebody do their job well.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
And it is very tricky. And I think the space thing is really, really important with letting someone do what they do and do it well and knowing when to move in and out of that and share that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Are you both in the shop all of the time together? Do you share days? How do you make scheduling work when you have two?
In the beginning, we were there
people.
all the time together, and it wasn't necessary after a while. We just sort of got the flow, and then we would overlap some, and now we really sort of take turns and overlap maybe one day a week. Where we
And
can
it depends on the
reset.
season
Yeah.
too. Like if it's during busy season, we'll both be in there
A lot more.
a lot more.
Like
and
all day Saturdays.
That's helpful. But the schedule is actually very flexible. Like if
Yeah.
each of us has something else going on, we just sort of work it out on a daily basis. I mean, we share a calendar so things get plugged in if we know we have other commitments elsewhere, and we can both work around that. And so far it's been fine, but that's been very lucky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is your third year in business, right?
What?
The third
I know.
anniversary. So what are some of the things that have changed since you opened, or we started talking about some of the potential advantages and challenges before we had the mics on earlier. What does year 3 look like exactly? And how does it compare to the first couple of years?
For me, I feel like we've given a lot to this process, and now it's giving back. And so that we can actually step into a place where we can create what we want in some ways instead of just throwing it all up and seeing where it lands, which is very exciting to me. We both really like furniture, and to have that be validated that we can actually move into the directions that we like a lot is really exciting. I don't exactly know what that means yet, but that's a great feeling that it feels very successful, even though it's very small steps. But we have been validated to do more of what we like because that works. The things that we just kind of fill in gaps and we don't care that much, they're just gap fillers. That's great to understand that.
Yeah, we're finally kind of at the point where we can see what's working and what isn't working, and going back and reevaluating. All right, well, maybe we'll lose this part, but we need to add that. So it's kind of like the pieces of a puzzle fitting together. But it is nice when someone loves what you love and we're like, yeah, we can go in that direction, and that's going to be interesting and fun, and finding out new sources for that, and getting what we want in and what people are also going to like is, a challenge, but interesting. It keeps changing, so that's nice as well.
What are some things that you've learned since owning a business that you could pass to somebody else who is maybe thinking about taking the leap and starting their own business?
Well, I think we started in an unconventional way in that we both brought a big stock of things in with us. So there wasn't a huge capital outlay initially. So that was really advantageous. I can't imagine starting from scratch and having to do that. I think that would be a little bit insurmountable. So there's that aspect of it. And neither one of us had retail experience. So we just it was like, when I look back, it's like, oh, wow, what did we do? And we just did it. It was kind of like, let's put on a show. We're going to get here. We've got this stuff and we're going to make it work. So we learned a lot in the last 3 years. Inventory, cost of goods sold, setting up our accounting system. That was kind of a big learning curve for us. And I think we're finally getting our heads wrapped around that. So going forward, I think that'll help organize and prioritize and see what we're going to do. I don't know that I would recommend starting a business that way, but I think if you have the passion and the things already, and certainly the pop-up program, I don't think we could have done it without the pop-up program. That really is such a great platform to dip your toe in the water and find out if you like doing that, first of all, and if you feel like you can sustain doing that. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, a lot of space.
Yeah.
I would suggest to anybody starting to be fearless too. Because there is, logically, it is a difficult thing to do unless for some reason you think you are a complete winner, which, whatever.
We definitely didn't have the Mr. G plan layout before we went into this.
Right.
Which, hats off to him. That was an amazing story. And I love the whole setup and the way he went into it and how he thinks about it. And he's absolutely right in a lot of regard.
Yeah, he's a big planner, that's for sure. I just want to make sure that, not only with programming like the pop-up shops, but other programming in other communities and in different places that helps to empower entrepreneurs or gives them just that little bit of boost. I just want to be sure that people understand that starting a business is incredibly hard work and it's incredibly time consuming, but it is possible.
It is possible.
Absolutely.
There's so many people that can do it, and I think can do it well.
I would say that the fearless piece means to me a little bit, to clarify, means that you will never necessarily know what direction that you will be going in when you take the leap. But if you don't take the leap, it's not going to happen. So the road could be in a totally different direction, but as long as you're walking, you're going to get somewhere pretty fun. And it could be a total mystery. It could be deciding that that isn't the thing you want to do, but it reveals another thing, the next step.
Right.
So I would say 100% do it. I would never tell somebody to go have a child, but I like the people that have had them because it's a brutal experience.
Right.
In many ways, and lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
So
just like
I love
life,
that.
the giant science experiment.
Right, exactly. Well, what are some other things that we can chat about? You guys are both so confident, and you're doing so well, and your stories are fantastic and based in success. Are there any times that you had where you really fell down hard, either in another business or another profession, just for the benefit of listeners? And I think not all of us have the fortunate experience to have an incredible business partner and to have things going so well, to be able to use creativity and to be having fun at work. Has this always been this way for you in your professional careers?
No.
I at one point decided that I needed a little bit more support with a design project that I was doing, and somebody approached me and that they wanted to do it with me, and they came over every day, and it was a hodgepodge for sure. But they wanted to sort of piggyback on my plan and my project, which I thought I really would like more support. But I was like holding the project and another person's experience. And I felt like that fell apart so easily because I felt like I couldn't hold it together. I mean, that's just a very intimate, like small story, but I would say that the benefits, again, as we were saying earlier, the benefits of like holding your own space and bringing your skills to the table and like sharing really was a way better and more successful and way more fun to require that somebody, unless you're hiring somebody for their skills, that's a different plan. But that was a different energy for sure. And I thought that I needed the support and the help to get, product out there and to get, more of it going. And it was hard. It was way harder than I expected. And so that fell apart. A lot of gratitude to the process, because I learned a lot. But I'd say it's I don't know if there's I know that Caleb and TJ are amazing partners, and they're very different, and they bring a lot. This is Kickapoo Coffee.
Yep.
They bring a lot of difference to the table.
Yep.
And I think that's really, it's a funny thing to understand in the beginning, because you are drawn to likenesses instead of contrasts.
Right.
But I think it's a huge value to like understand the contrast as being more of a support. But
yep. Oh, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I think partnerships can easily become very messy, and so many of the ones that I've seen have been messy. And that's why your relationship, the two of you and the way that you work is so special, because it's more rare than people realize, I think.
it is true. I feel
And
like
it's
it's
because
a little unicorn.
it is a unicorn.
Yeah, it is a
totally
unicorn.
is, with lots of sparkles. And it's because I think in partnership sometimes there ends up being one person doing a little more of the work, or one person with a little bit more of the vision or something.
Yeah.
And it can be very exhausting for the other party, one way or the other. And it's
Yeah.
really fantastic to see the way that the two of you work together, solving problems, changing things in the shop, continuing to move forward with things, and really doing it together.
I really trust Randy, and I think that's one of the bigger pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That I know that if I don't understand it, that I probably will eventually understand.
Mm-hmm.
Or that I need space to, like, I'm building a little house and Randy's like, I'll take a bunch of extra time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like super grateful and super like, oh my gosh, like people don't do that, do they? But to allow myself the space to be like, oh, somebody's got my back.
Mm-hmm.
It's very special.
It is
pretty great.
special.
Trust it.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And just this community here in Viroqua is so interesting to me. There's so many entrepreneurs. There's so many people that start businesses. There's so many people that try their ideas and foster their ideas. And you are a huge part of that, Nora. And Sue Noble, also a huge part of that. But I feel like everybody wants everybody to win and be successful. I don't get any sense of that, oh, that's
Right.
starting up and that's going to hurt my business. It's like everybody sort of pulls together and like, yeah, we're happy you're here and what can we do? And there's also kind of a respect, I feel like, in the business community that people are like, oh, I'm not going to do what you're doing. I'm going to do something different. And I know we're very aware of that. With the shop, like we don't want to have something that the public market has or that Woodhookers has
Right.
or that
Yep.
Artful Fabrications has. And everybody has their own niche, but we can all support each other and send people, you know, we don't have that here, but go to Mr. G's because they have that there. So, and I really appreciate that about this community. I think that's pretty rare and pretty special.
Oh, I think so too.
Definitely.
Especially the more that I travel and the more that I speak to other people in other communities, we really do have a fairly fortunate ecosystem here for businesses and entrepreneurs. So,
Do you feel
Our
like
little-
it's the size?
our little paradise.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with the size. I also, the more that I've traveled and the more that I've spoken to other communities, I also think that much of what has happened here really can still be attributed to Fred Nelson and his vision. You know, the National Main Street program is 40 years old and Viroqua has been in it for 35 years.
Wow.
So to be one of the first, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but the nation, to take part in a program like this that offers so many different things to businesses and the community and to entrepreneurs is really special.
Yeah.
And so I think so much of the success of this community can be attributed to people 30 years ago and 35 years ago saying, look, we need to save this downtown and make sure that this business district is successful so that all of us can be successful. That's visionary stuff. And
Yeah.
you don't realize it until you hear from other communities who just joined the National Main Street 5 years ago.
Interesting.
It makes a big, big difference. So
Where
Fred Nelson was the man.
do you see Viroqua in 5 years? Dream Viroqua?
Oh, we're
what do you
turning it around in the
think?
host. Well, that's a very good question. I see this community continuing to grow and thrive. I see more diversity happening all the time. I'm incredibly proud of the fact that the pop-up program is empowering women and other diverse populations to open businesses, to really change the footprint of our commercial district. I think that's really important. I love the fact that city and county officials are starting to see the importance of low-cost programming like this that empowers other people. So they're helping us with grant writing and doing some other things to expand the footprint of the downtown for more retail spaces and more opportunities. So I see the area, because of the beautiful homes and the beautiful farms and access to high quality food and all of the wonderful things that we have here, diverse education, high quality healthcare. I only see this area continuing to grow. I think it's attractive to lots of people. It's really good to see young people paying attention to Viroqua and starting to move here.
Yeah, single.
Yeah.
That's a miracle to me.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
Well, and what's so interesting too is people are always talking about millennials, like they're aliens or something. But what we need to prepare for is Generation Z has graduated from college now. So, we spend a lot of time talking about millennials, but let's talk about Generation Z. They're out of college and they're ready to rock and roll.
Yep. Right. What are they bringing?
Yeah. And what are they interested in? And then also because young people and baby boomers want some of the same things. They want to live downtown. They want to be able to walk to their farmers markets. They want to be able to have walkable, bikeable cities. What are we doing to create the places for all of those people?
Right.
And how can the Viroqua Chamber Main Street work not only with all of these young people that are coming in, but what about empowering seniors to open businesses for the first time? Like, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. So I think figuring out ways to work with all of these different people and empowering them just continues to create a stronger community. So I see only good things in the next 5 to 10 years.
Sweet. I like it.
Yeah. So what other things, if you had to give just a couple of words of advice to somebody who's listening to the podcast and they're really unsure about starting a business with a friend, or they just don't know if they have the startup capital or if their idea is good enough.
I definitely second Jessica's theory of fearlessness. You just need to go do it. Having said that, it's nice to do. If it's something you love, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of thought process that goes into it. So if it's not something that you really love, I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So if there's something that you enjoy making or creating or being around, give it a whirl.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's a very important piece. We start with something that's meaningful to you. It doesn't have to be your life vision, the thing that you need to accomplish, but something that's always been meaningful, because you're going to have something that's it's a leg up, because it will always be there for you, and you'll have a perspective that's a little bit different than the regular person if it's always been there,
and something that serves the community too. I think that's an important component that people maybe forget about. Like trying to put a square peg into a round hole somewhere. I think you need to get a sense of the place and what's needed. Is there something that's missing that you can bring to that community that's going to serve the community and work for you as well?
It's for validation purposes. It's really important to not be your only validator. It's hard to self-validate constantly. But I mean, it needs to happen too. You need to be really good at it to know that you're not off when there isn't an external validation. Like you're not making enough money, or people don't know yet that you're there. There's a lot of space that needs to grow. You have to be kind of good with yourself.
And it takes time. People are still coming into the shop after 3 years and saying, "Did you just open?" I'm like, "No." Or the other big thing is, "You're always closed." I'm like, "No, we're open 6 days a week." So you have, that's a constant. It takes a while for people to realize that you are there and what you have, and that, oh, this is a place I can go if I need to get this and such or that. Or if you don't have that, maybe they can get that for you. People, I'm always telling people, if you don't see what you want, let us know. We can try to get it. So being open to your audience and your market and your people in your community that have different wants and needs.
Yeah, I think that's a good philosophy for sure. Who do you recall some of the guests to the community that are from the furthest away? Like who have you sold something to that you were really surprised that they were
United
visiting?
Arab Emirates.
Yes.
Something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
The whole family.
Oh, the
What were
entire
they-
family.
What were they here for? Do you know what?
They
They're
come once a year.
to go to the Dells. No,
No,
to
the
go
Mall
to
of
the Mall of
America.
America.
Okay.
They love the Mall of America, but they also scout out all the small towns around and drive and go and spend a day in
Yeah.
various small towns. So
That's
they do their
cool.
Mall of America big thing, and then they get into these small communities. And we were just like, "You're from where?" It was kind
That's
of amazing.
awesome.
We
That
thought,
was
"Oh,
awesome.
maybe they're from Minnesota or somewhere," but no. Yeah, that was definitely the furthest away, and they were great. The whole family stayed and talked for a long time.
Yep.
We different mullah beads, prayer beads. We had a big discussion about that.
Oh,
we
that's
had
right.
some
He's
in
got
the
it.
shop,
That
and
he's
it was
told us what sort of thing that we had. That was a mystery.
it was fantastic.
It was some
Yeah.
kind of a prayer bead. Yeah, they
Cool.
were sweet.
Yeah, that's super neat.
There's a lot of travelers
Yeah,
come through Viroqua.
Yeah,
It's amazing,
it is amazing.
and they love it.
Oh yeah, and they like to chat too.
Yeah.
yes,
Especially depending. So one of the things that we find at the visitor center is depending on the age category, some of their very different philosophies for travel. So rarely do we see some of the younger folks because they don't want to be told where to go.
right.
So they don't come to a visitor center. But some of the 65 and plus set come on in, and they're more than pleased to sit down and be told exactly where to go.
Yeah,
That is
And how to
amazing.
get there and what time. And it's very
Right.
interesting how different generations travel and experience places, and trying to figure out a way to accommodate the way that all of the different people experience place is
Yes.
also fascinating.
Marketing.
people
We're realizing
all-
that. Ooh, okay.
people always ask in the shop when they come in. They're like, "What else is there to do in this town?"
Mm-hmm.
And so you give them the map, the chamber map, and then you go through, even beyond that, going through the litany of up and down each block. There's this, 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 and this. And they're like, "Oh, there's so much to do here." I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, go do it. It's great."
Yeah. One of the things, and I shouldn't talk too much about chamber stuff, but one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is I found a way to create a walking app.
Oh,
For-
Yes.
Yeah. So it'll take
Fantastic.
just a little bit, but thanks to some awesome intern support this summer, I think we should be able to get that
Great.
together. So including information about the buildings, so working with the Historical
Oh my
Society.
God,
Very
that's
excited
And then
about
they
that.
can just click on the app and
Yep.
move on through.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Project.
That'll help bridge the gap of the generational, how people travel and function through.
Yeah, because they already know it through museums or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So, because I think for just about anybody who comes to the area, regardless of age, they really do want to know about the buildings, and they want to
Mhm.
know about the businesses, and they want to know about the restaurants. So what's the history?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
if we
yeah.
can create something that answers all of those questions and then also directs them to other things just outside of the community. Be great.
Perfect.
There's a lot of people coming back home, in a sense.
Yes.
And they want to show their friend and tell about how long the restaurant was there before we moved in, and
Right.
it's amazing. They
Yeah.
know everything about it.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for chatting today.
Thank you, Nora.
Such a pleasure. We need
Yeah,
to do lunch or
likewise.
something too.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.